Well, I'm not gonna suck your dick. Don't worry.
Yet?
I'm not gonna do it. Yeah. Well, yeah. You guys let me know if I do.
Yeah.
Comment below if you see me sneaking one in.
Ooh, this kratom's getting to my head.
Yeah.
I feel like sucking dick.
Oh, I'm so gay for nuclear war right now.
Do you have those nicotine mints?
We rolling?
We're rolling.
This is where we would play Parliament Funkadelic.
Give up the
Drugs.
trunks.
Gotta give up the drugs.
Give up
Except
your
for
trunks.
the ones we just took.
You sexy boy, I want your trunks. It's a kid at the pool who's really hot. Give up your trunks.
Give up your trunks. The pedophile anthem.
The pedo anthem.
But they're copyrighted. We cannot play the music that we want.
Yes.
Whenever we want.
Because
Not
otherwise
allowed.
we won't make all the money we're making from this podcast.
Right. And Parliament, whichever members are still alive may not make money.
You know, this brings up a good point. You were asking me my top 5 or top 10 favorite bands. I really didn't have a good answer because it's tough to say of all time.
But you were saving it for the podcast.
But I kind of think I could. I could kind of sum up generally what have been timeless, or almost timelessly, something I've always been into. Parliament's up there. I can't do it in order.
Bach.
Yes,
Timeless.
top 5 traumatizing artists of my childhood. Bach, Beethoven, Fauré.
Oh yeah, you and I have a opposite life story with classical music.
Yeah, I grew up being forced into training as a classical musician.
The whitest upbringing one could possibly imagine.
Yeah, I have fever dreams about Beethoven.
Weren't you a classically trained cellist?
Cellist, singer,
Not to
pianist.
just throw you under the bus. Classically trained cellist ladies.
Yeah, started playing at 4, played until I was 18, took private lessons, played in string quartets, symphony orchestras, stuff like that.
God damn.
Sang in choirs.
You're basically white trash now.
Hey, don't call me white.
Where you've become. I'm sorry.
Don't call me
Yeah.
white.
What's the name of the band again?
No effects.
No. Shout out to No Effects with the hilarious song title. Don't Call Me White.
A fantastic song title.
Funk song was making me LOL earlier.
They're a classic. I got into them because I was into like emo and pop punk when I was in like middle school and early high school. Around sophomore year, I was like, this is a little bit gay. I'm going to move into like the harder stuff.
Yeah.
And that's when my gay OCD began.
Yeah.
But I moved into skate punk.
That's when you knew you weren't gay.
Yes.
You're like, if you're 17 and you're still really into pop punk, you're probably at least bi-curious.
I don't like to throw my brother under the bus like that.
yes, sorry.
But I started skateboarding when I was like 16.
Mm.
You remember I used to bring my skateboard to our high school, and
Yeah.
I would sit outside the gym during lunch and try to learn how to ollie for a month straight.
Beat up nerds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to curb stomp nerds.
Nick was kind of a cool high school kid.
Was I? I thought it was. I always saw myself as like a loner high school kid.
Yeah, but you were the cool loner. Like, people would be like, oh, there's the weed smoking, skateboarding guy with the tie-dye shirt.
Once I started smoking weed and wearing tie-dye, I think it went in my favor.
Got you.
The first couple
out
years...
of the gate.
Yeah, we knew each other throughout high school. The first couple years of high school, I was like bitter about the fact that I was there because it was a prep school and I wanted to go to my local high school with all my friends.
Yeah.
And I was still listening to like pop punk and shit. But even then, I'd like some people thought I was like this like mysterious weird guy.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, we had a few mutual friends in theater and such who would occasionally see me play guitar in like the basement of a stairwell.
Right.
Because the acoustics are pretty great there.
Yeah, I think you and I didn't become friends until like the last 2 years.
Yeah.
We were always familiar with each other. I think just because we had like random things like history class together, intramural together.
And I think we had 9th grade biology together too. At least our mutual and I did.
This is a great podcast conversation.
Yeah, this is nothing that anybody can relate to at all.
So much to all of this.
But the idea being, I got sick of the pop punk shit because I was like, this is gay and I'll be into skate punk stuff. And I was like, oh, harder punk is cool.
Yeah. Well, so what was harder punk for you back then?
It was more of The Offspring, which is barely hard.
Right.
Some No Effects, that Bad Religion song I showed you, Skyscraper.
Right. So it wasn't like Black Flag.
No. I never got into that kind of stuff. Rancid would be closer.
Bad Brains is probably the closest you'll get.
Yeah, but even Bad Brains I didn't get into until after I dated my heroin addict ex.
Right.
Because she was into hard punk, and she got me into like more Rancid and that kind of stuff. And then I found Bad Brains while looking for good reggae.
Oh, yeah? That's right.
I was like into Sublime for a while.
Wow.
And Sublime had covered a lot of Bad Brains.
So you knew Bad Brains as a reggae band before the punk?
Kind of. I like looked them up and I was like, oh, Pay to Come, this is hardcore punk.
Right.
Band in DC, hardcore punk.
Yeah.
But then I was like looking for the reggae. So I was like, I knew the song, I think it was actually I Love My Dog by Sublime. It was a cover of I Love I Jah.
Yeah.
Which is a reggae song about the Lord Messiah Jah Rastafari. Haile Selassie I.
Yes.
Ethiopia.
Mount Zion.
Bang, dang, 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 dang.
Shout out to Ika Mouse.
Shout out Ika Mouse.
Look him up. Phenomenal reggae artist.
We've been playing back and forth different punk, reggae, and funk obscure songs.
All black people. We're a couple of wannabe blacks here. That might as well be the podcast name.
Don't call me white.
Call me black instead.
Do call me black.
Yeah, I won't be insulted by that. Some people would.
There's call her daddy. We should be call him black.
Call us the blacks. Yeah.
Call us blacks.
Yeah. What a dream.
Damn, dude. That's going to be the title of this episode. Call us blacks.
For sure.
What's that? Call me baby. Call me black.
Oh, what is that fucking song?
We can't sing it.
I don't know. Isn't that one?
No, it was like that. Hey, I just.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Carly Rae Jepsen.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that was her.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Bad Brains is very underrated reggae, so they have incredible reggae songs.
Amazing.
There's not that many of them.
No.
But the ones that they have are like some of the best reggae that I've heard.
They're amazing reggae. They're nothing like any typical assumption of what reggae sounds like either.
Yeah.
It's like closer to dub because it's got a lot of different like effects. Like it's got the guitar has like phasers and reverb and echo and shit.
A lot of minor chords.
Yeah.
It's a little darker. The lyrics are darker.
It is a very dark reggae.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most reggae has kind of an optimistic feel to it.
Yes.
If not euphoric.
Yeah.
And this feels like Mount Zion has a storm rolling over it.
Yeah, this is more like
the West has fallen.
Yeah, this is the reggae that's being played in the enclaves of the ashes of Babylon.
Yeah, I was going for something like that. I don't know my patois lore as much.
Smoke some more Sensimilla, you'll start understanding the words of the chalice.
Hell yeah. But no, I mean, I grew up listening to all kinds of shit, but I was listening to pretty heavy-duty metal music by age 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So I started off hard, and then and I thought classical was like the most boring shit ever.
I did too.
So you just never liked classical. Let's say for a few songs.
It's tough because I do appreciate classical.
Yeah.
As like the most fine art of
But it's interesting that
music.
you won't... It seems like you don't go back and listen to it very often.
There's not much. There's a few songs that I really love, and I just haven't found classical music that really hits the modern melodic thing I'm looking for.
Interesting.
Because like modern songs have they have a melodic structure that makes them catchy.
Yeah.
There are only a few catchy classical songs.
Most classical's not catchy.
No.
Pretty much by design.
And it's usually the newer classical stuff, like Jupiter by Holst.
Yeah, and even then it's mostly just the chorus.
Yeah, it's
song.
Entirely the chorus.
Really
I will skip to the chorus. I won't even listen to the rest of it.
Which is fascinating because I listened to that whole song.
Yeah.
I listened to the whole album. I like a lot of I like a lot of non-catchy music just in general.
Yeah,
so I've gotten very into classical, particularly like in the last 5 years.
That's the kind of thing where it's like, I think you would be more interested in like listening to like an epic movie soundtrack, just for fun even.
Yeah, but you too, because there's some, I mean, movie score stuff is way more accessible than like a lot of old, like traditional classical music.
True. No, it's very true.
Like
It's
Hans
much
Zimmer
more...
and stuff like that.
Yeah, fair. It's much more melodic.
But yeah, but I think that there's some 20th century classical for sure that you could probably get into. So, I mean, stuff you've probably heard before already, like Gershwin.
Yeah.
Copeland and things that are just a lot more pleasant.
Well, interestingly enough, I find I like choral music more than classical music. Like, there's a lot of choir music.
That makes sense.
That I really love. Because I grew up from ages 7 to 18 singing a men and boys choir. So there's a lot of things that I have very sentimental attachments to in that regard. And
yeah,
there are some great choral groups nowadays. Like Tenebrae is a great choral group. And... there's another big famous one I can't think of right now.
Pentatonics.
The Whiffenpoofs.
Yeah. The Wiggles.
The Wiggles. But there's even some old Latin shit I like.
Have you heard the song "Sure on This Shining Night" by Samuel Barber?
Yes. I'm sure I've sang it before.
I'll send it to you I'll resend it because it's one of my more... Samuel Barber is one of my favorite composers in general.
Do you know when it was written? What, 100 years?
20th century.
20th
early
century?
19th century, yeah.
How early do you know? Probably 40s, 50s, something like that.
I was going to say 20s, 30s. So
okay.
It might have been 40s, 50s.
It's the kind of thing that if it's early enough, it might not be copywritten anymore, because after like 100 years, copyrights expire.
Right, yeah.
So in that case, we can play some of that shit.
Yeah,
But
just fucking jack it up.
Yeah.
Next to Ika Mouse.
There's a...
But it's a beautiful choral song.
Yeah.
And I don't think he wrote very much choral music. I mean, he has famous symphonies. His most famous song, of course, is what's the fucking thing at the beginning of Platoon?
Oh, yeah, that's Wagner.
No, that's Apocalypse Now.
That is Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
I don't know what's at the beginning of Platoon.
Oh, it's so famous. I don't remember what it is.
They don't say the name in Platoon.
No, it's just they play it at the beginning. It's a very famous, like, melodramatic, sad song.
Yeah.
It's honestly not my favorite by him, but it's you would know it right away if you heard of it.
Yeah. The other choral group I was talking about was Tenebrae.
Yeah, I haven't heard of them before.
They're a great... I thought about auditioning for that group for a while because they were accepting new people into it. And I've done a lot of a cappella singing. It's an a cappella group. But
fair enough. I'll have to look them up.
Yeah, they're very good.
I don't know if I've ever heard a cappella that I've actually liked.
Dude, they do this version of I just brought it up on my Spotify. They do this version of Franz Biebel's Ave Maria.
Okay.
Which is the most beautiful classical song maybe ever. It's like that and Clair de Lune by Debussy.
Yeah.
But this Ave Maria, my friend from choir college, which is where I spent my first semester of college, he played this for me when we were on acid and 2CB.
That'll do it.
Dude. And I hadn't heard it since I sang it as a kid.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I'm pretty sure you posted that in our super secret group chat.
I must have.
Unrelated to the podcast.
I must have.
Yeah,
Nick and Garrett's secret group chat.
Yeah. I've heard of that.
It's amazing, dude.
What do you know the first, like, who wrote Ave Maria?
Is the original?
Biebel? Yeah.
No, it's not Biebel. Biebel was like 20th
That's
century.
what I mean. I thought it might have been Schubert.
No, it's like timelessly old.
I thought it was like an ancient.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like there have been different versions of it for as long as...
I think Schubert's version is famous. Maybe that's like the modern one that we think of.
Probably.
With like the Ave Maria. They do it in like Catholic church and shit like that.
Yeah. But they even have a lot of different ones they'll use there.
Yeah.
I sang in Episcopal churches, so I don't know. But
you fucking white supremacist.
It's kind of the Americanized version of Catholicism, Episcopalianism.
Okay, I was going to say, what even is Episcopalian?
Well, Catholicism, with Protestants, they separated from Catholicism into other branches of Christianity for the first time. When they went to... So it was like Luther. Martin Luther was the first one created Lutheranism.
Yeah.
From there, the British adopted their own version of Catholicism called Anglican.
Yeah.
And that is the British version of Episcopalianism. When they came to America, they made Episcopalianism, which is its own version of Anglican, which is its own version of Catholicism.
You know, Episcopalians have the second highest net worth on average.
Really?
Of any religious group in America.
Wow.
Guess number one.
Catholics? Jews.
Of any religious
Jews.
group. Jews. Yeah, of course. It's the Jews. I only know that because my mom is an anti-Semite.
Rastafarians.
Yeah, Rastafarians are number 3.
The real Israelites.
Yeah. But no, my mom is a weird anti-Semite where like she has close Jewish friends.
Yeah.
And yet will just talk shit about the Jews out of nowhere. You know, it's one of those like. I don't think she has a lot of racist assumptions about it. She just lumps them all in.
Yeah.
You're like the Jews are as an entity.
Yeah.
You know, which seems to be the essence of most anti-Semitism.
Yes.
Right? It's not just that here are a bunch of people who by happenstance are very wealthy, but they're conspiring to be very wealthy.
Yeah, it's kind of tough.
Which I don't think is true.
No, but people associate Jews with like a race of people more than just a religion.
Well, that's also
too,
true.
Which I think it leads to that kind of personification.
It's also any groupings of people are going to scratch each other's back to some extent.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Any people who are conjoined by family ties or religious ties or political ties.
Yeah.
But that's different from actual conspiratorial behavior.
Yes.
You know what I'm trying to say? That's different from like, okay, we the Jews, anybody who's Jewish, we're all on this super insider team.
Yeah.
We're this monolith of people and we're all going to pull in the same direction and take all the wealth, leech it from the American economy. That's horseshit.
Yeah, there's no super secret Jewish group chat.
Yeah, they got secret handshakes and shit.
Yeah.
They got their own Epstein Island.
Yeah, it's Sarah and Ishmael's secret podcast.
Yeah. No. Now, are there a bunch of rich-ass Jews that own Hollywood studios and own political things and work together? Yeah, but that's same thing for Episcopalians.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, too, because, like, any parents who are good with money will pass that knowledge down to their kids, for the most part.
Yeah.
Or it's more common to pass it down to your kids if your parents have money. And so it makes sense that through genealogy over time,
yeah,
they would just culturally, they would pick up more from previous generations.
Yeah, different people, they hold the economic football at different times. You know,
yes.
The Jews weren't always. They've had a great run. They've had a great run economically.
Speaking of which,
doesn't mean it's in their genes.
No,
you know that they can't turn into the Rastafarians. 2,000 years from now, they'll be getting baked and singing about Mount Zion.
Yeah, it's what they really
unironically.
do. It's what they do behind closed doors.
Yeah, they put on dreads, fake dreads.
We're Mount Zionists.
Anyways, to show my mom, I'm like, Mom, it's not just the Jews that are wealthy. And then I looked up net worths of different, and there was like a graph of, and it showed like.
Actually, it is the Jews.
Yeah, well, it is the Jews, but Episcopalians, they basically have the same net worth on average.
Oh, wow.
Hindus, too. Indian people are super fucking rich on average.
Well, it's because it's culturally suggested that they go into economically beneficial fields or financially stable fields.
It's all but culture's malleable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Cultures don't last forever. But yeah, of course, certain cultures. And then you could paradoxically say, okay, well, that's grounds for not racism, but it is grounds for stereotyping.
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, if cultures tend to produce certain results, then anybody who is a part of that culture by name or birthright or whatever, I'm just going to assume is a certain way.
Yeah.
But and you're going to be statistically right.
Yeah.
More often than you're wrong. But there's going to be exceptions to the rule.
Yeah.
Like fucking Lenny Bruce, who is Jewish, and he's like breaks every conventional Jewish stereotype you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
He was a top tier Olympic athlete.
Yeah.
You know, every Jewish stereotype. No, he was a stand-up comedian.
He's currently in the NBA.
Yeah. Lenny Bruce, the greatest of all basketball players.
Lenny Bruce with a 7-foot vertical.
11-inch penis. There's some... I haven't seen the movie Airplane.
Oh, that's wild. I started watching that again the other night.
A million people have recommended that movie.
Sure.
But apparently there's some scene in that movie where somebody's like reading, it's like a book called like Greatest Jewish Athletes. Or
yeah, it's a pamphlet.
Yeah.
I noticed that last time I was watching it.
Yeah.
That's like right at the start of it too.
Yeah.
Any Mel Brooks movie I'd highly recommend too, if you haven't gotten around to him.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I don't think Mel Brooks did that.
Did he not?
I don't think he did.
I thought he directed it.
Let me just
you can Google it.
Very rudely Google.
No, I'll fill it in with other Mel Brooks recommendations. Check out Blazing Saddles, of course. Young Frankenstein I thought was a little overrated.
I only saw Young Frankenstein once. I loved it when I was a kid.
Fair.
I haven't seen it since then. I've seen parts of Blazing Saddles, but I gotta watch it straight through.
That's a great one. I just rewatched
and the
that
producers,
too.
of course.
The producers is great.
Yeah.
I also highly recommend High Anxiety. Much less known, but it's like it's a spoof of various Hitchcock movies.
It was so Airplane was written and directed by 3 people, none of whom was Mel Brooks, but Jim Abrams, David Zucker, and Jerry Zucker. The Zucker Boys.
I don't know, the Zuckerbergs.
Not the Zuckerbergs.
I wonder why I thought that was Mel Brooks.
It's got a very Mel Brooks vibe.
It really does. It feels like every other Mel Brooks movie in that kind of way. Because it's also kind of parodying the stereotypes of a plane movie.
Yes.
Plane movies from the 80s and 70s.
Snakes on a Plane.
Well, this was 1980.
Con Air. I'm just thinking of any plane movies.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, it was 1980.
Just was 9/11. Yeah. Parodying 9/11.
Fahrenheit 9/11.
Yeah. You mentioned were you going to say anything of any worth?
Yeah, I was going to say something completely unrelated. But
Same.
You say something completely unrelated.
Well, I was going to launch into something big.
Go for it.
You mentioned the something football. They're holding.
Oh yeah, holding the football.
Holding the football. I just found out about the nuclear football.
Oh shit!
During my nuclear.
I've been nuclear war alert.
I've been having a lot of nuclear anxiety as of late. This is recorded about a week after Russia. This might be like such old news. It's gay, but this is about a week after Russia launched an ICBM, an intercontinental ballistic missile. Not quite. It's intermediate range at Ukraine.
Intergalactic big black cock.
Yeah, the IGBBC.
Something like that. Old news is gay news.
Yeah. We don't have to get into nuke stuff. But no, that's been haunting
No. You cracked open the lid.
Yeah.
We gotta go all the way in now.
That's
nuclear war, you guys. What could be more pressing or relevant of a topic than nuclear war?
It's always relevant unless we're already dead by the time this comes out.
Ever since Oppenheimer.
That
fucking asshole.
More like Oopsenheimer.
Seriously. That guy, I mean, he knew he fucked up. Him and Einstein. But where they're like, what have we done?
Yeah.
This is horrible.
I heard from a podcast, I think, with Annie something.
Jacobson.
Annie Jacobson.
Yeah,
yes.
Because I watched like 5 minutes.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, I gotta watch this later.
Yeah, she found out that...
Well, she's a journalist. We'll explain.
She's a journalist who was on the Lex Friedman podcast, and Joe Rogan talks about... She wrote a book about nuclear warfare and how much of... how important it is that people are actually concerned about and know about our current nuclear status in the world, because it's probably the number one looming threat to humanity.
It is probably... I can't think of any other threat that
aliens
could
AI.
kill us overnight. Maybe AI. Aliens is a little more theoretical.
Yes.
Because they haven't been proven to exist yet.
Yes. Quantum computers I'm also getting into now, which could be very risky.
Yes. But she is not and she really goes into the fine print logistics, talking to insiders, people who've worked in the American government.
She's a journalist. She's not an expert in the field.
Right. But she's basically illustrating just how dangerous and easy it would be for a nuclear holocaust to happen, even by mistake.
Yeah, the idea... People don't seem to be as afraid of nukes nowadays. Like, there's a threat of Russia possibly sending a small nuke at Ukraine because we've kind of backed them into a corner.
Yes.
And we've been like... They set up a red line. They're like, don't cross this, and we just keep crossing it. And now it's like the last red line is like, we're going to send a nuke to Ukraine, and we're probably going to cross that because we just sent 2 more long-range missiles into Russia.
Yeah.
But there was also talks about possible peace. I have no idea.
It is insane, though, just how frantically afraid people were during the Cold War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, as they should be, because the rhetoric back then was really heated, and we were really close to a nuclear holocaust. But
we've become complacent.
It's been less than 40 years since then, 40, 50 years, whatever,
yeah, 50.
and we're already, it's like, people live under the illusion that, like, we somehow haven't figured out.
Yeah,
like,
just because no one's used a nuke since the first ones. On another country, we've tested them, but...
Right, and there hasn't been an accident that we know of other than the nuclear reactor crises.
Yeah. And I think people become complacent because they're like, yeah, we do have a lot of nukes. Russia has a lot of nukes. They could send them to us, and we could send them to them, you know... But we see things like the Iron Dome in Israel, which is like, on TV, it's shooting down incoming missiles. And so we're like, oh, we could do that with nukes.
Right.
I don't know how far you got into this thing. Us and Russia each have about 1,700 nukes.
Right. Which is an enormous amount.
The only way we can stop a nuke from hitting us once it's launched is to use an interceptor missile, which is about 50% accurate at actually hitting its target, because it's like trying to hit a bullet with a bullet in midair. And we only have 44.
Yeah.
If we could shoot down 44, if they were 100% accurate, we'd shoot down 44 and still have 1,650 nukes coming to hit us.
Right.
That would be in a best case scenario.
I think that is, a lot of people assume that the powers that be are of right mind enough to make sure that there's like no chance that a nuclear disaster could happen.
Yeah.
Which is so ridiculous that anybody would think that.
Yeah.
One, because there have been multiple horrific nuclear disasters. There hasn't been a nuclear bomb accidentally dropped yet. But clearly we don't fully understand nuclear technology.
Yeah.
And then, clearly the people who, a lot of the people who have all of these nukes are not people who are of right or sound mind.
Yeah.
Like Kim Jong-un or Putin. I mean, first of all, these guys are getting older.
Yeah.
Who knows if they start having dementia or Alzheimer's.
And also,
getting desperate.
Peace in the world between the U.S. and Russia especially is maintained through this idea of mutually assured destruction, the same as it has been throughout the Cold War.
Yes.
Which we are still basically in. We are still in the Cold War.
The Cold War never ended.
It never ended.
Yes.
We're still fighting proxy wars just like we were with Vietnam and Korea.
We're still threatening each other. Trying to get things that we want geopolitically and in a game of chicken, basically.
And so because mutually assured destruction is the way that we maintain peace, we keep moving the boundary of NATO closer to Russia. And we have even recently talked about putting nukes in Ukraine.
Yes.
And if we get nukes to the point that they could be launched at Russia before they could respond, Russia will feel threatened. If Russia feels threatened, which they would be.
They already feel threatened.
Yeah. The idea is basically, if we try to topple Russia, why would they not nuke us? They have nothing to lose at that point. So they would say, okay, yeah, go ahead and topple us, but we are going to nuke you. That's the last line of defense.
Yes. But even if it is, to your point, it doesn't have to be mutually assured destruction.
Yeah.
Because theoretically, Russia could launch all their nukes before we do and kill us all and just take over the world. But even if it was mutually insured, some people don't even give a fuck about mutually insured destruction. I mean, you could have a legitimate psychopath, which again, if people like the leaders of some of these terrorist organizations, if some of these guys aren't borderline suicidal, homicidal psychopaths, I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
Osama bin Laden. So you get nukes into the wrong person's hands, and even mutually assured destruction, or suicide for that matter, is not necessarily a powerful enough deterrent to guarantee anything.
No. And it's also not like these decisions are being made with lots of time to think about it by experts.
Yes.
With nukes especially, if we see from a satellite that Russia has launched nukes in any quantity at the U.S., there's a 6-minute window apparently where the president alone makes the decision to respond with 1,700 nukes at once, or to not respond and see what happens.
Right.
They might have time to talk to the Secretary of Defense. They might not. But ultimately, it's like...
And who gives a fuck?
If this happened right now, Biden would be making the decision. Dementia-ridden Biden would be making that decision. If it happened during Trump, narcissistic Trump would be making that decision. Neither of these is good.
Yeah.
It's not like
You're not getting a military mastermind at the wheel, nor are you getting a Christ-like figure. You're getting someone with agendas and compromised intelligence and all kinds of problems.
It's like you're not getting a war room like in Failsafe or in Doctor Strangelove.
Right.
You're not getting a whole, like, all the major generals are sitting down and they're discussing the risks and the advantages.
And it's also not just the major countries. I forget exactly how many countries have nukes now.
Well, I think Iran has some.
It's more than a lot of people realize.
Yes.
There are countries that a lot of people don't even realize have nukes. And I remember from what I have seen of that podcast, her saying that even if you take Russia and America's nukes off the table, there's still over 10,000 nuclear bombs just existing out there in the world.
That's insane.
Which is way more than enough to kill all of humanity.
Well, we also think of nukes as what we've seen launched at Nagasaki and Hiroshima, which were like... I'm not sure exactly. I think they were around 50 kilotons was the bigger one. The Fat Man that we dropped on Nagasaki. Yeah. 50 kilotons. That's 50,000 tons. The ones we have...
a big bomb.
Dude,
but it's nothing compared to what we have now.
The biggest that Russia tested in, like, the 60s was 50 megatons. That's 1,000 times bigger than the one we dropped on Nagasaki, the bigger one in Japan. That one alone was like, we can't ever do this again. We have one 1,000 times bigger.
And we have hydrogen bombs.
These are the hydrogen bombs.
Okay,
yeah,
that's
these
what
are.
you meant.
Yeah, they're thermonuclear bombs.
That makes sense. Because I was going to say, I don't know if a fission bomb can do that same volume.
No, a regular atomic bomb couldn't. But a hydrogen bomb, they use an atomic bomb to trigger the explosion for the hydrogen bomb.
Yeah.
That's what's in a hydrogen bomb, is a mini atomic bomb that blows up the hydrogen atom and does that.
Edward Teller invented the hydrogen bomb.
From Penn and Teller?
Yeah. No, it was Penn Jillette, actually. No, I did a report on Edward Teller in some science class.
Yeah.
And he was another one of those... I don't know what Oppenheimer's deal was. I still haven't seen the movie.
What's the deal with Oppenheimer?
But a lot of these types of guys are like, okay, you're a brilliant scientist.
Yeah.
Why is this what you're putting your mind to? Right? The most destructive possible thing.
Although the idea was basically it's a threat that... this gets back to the Jews. Germany, in World War II, was making the bomb, and we were racing them to make the bomb.
Right.
So that was why we made it. But also, Hitler...
So there's some protection of, American vision and stuff. But
yes.
But you have to wonder if there's also some ego baked into the cake.
I'm sure there's got to be.
I'm going to be the most famous scientist in the world. I'm going to go from a dork that nobody has ever heard of or cares about.
Yeah.
To front page of a magazine, they're going to make a $100 million+ movie about me. I'm sure decades after I die.
Yeah, he might have thought that ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it's like some of these guys, and Edward Teller specifically, because he seemed like that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like an opportunist who's just like, okay, I don't know how he got contracted to do that.
Yeah.
But that is really where it got even more insanely out of hand.
Yeah.
Like a bomb that can blow up a city is a major fucking problem. If you have enough of them, I guess it's the same thing. But I remember reading, I think, like, the biggest H-bomb ever created could, like, level an entire state.
Well, that's the idea, is, like, atomic bombs destroy cities, but hydrogen bombs destroy civilizations.
Yeah.
It's like crazy.
Why did anybody ever invent that?
Yeah.
That's also, the worst idea ever.
That was in the mid-'60s. We were told that we haven't continued development of newer versions of these things.
Who the fuck knows?
There's no way we haven't.
Right.
Just all the shit the CIA is hiding, there's no way we haven't developed bigger bombs.
Yeah.
But Hitler didn't create the atomic bomb because he considered it Jewish science. And so he ceased the work.
So
of
hating the
atomic
Jews
bomb.
is good.
It
I
did
guess.
benefit for
Yes.
us.
Right, yeah.
And someone else's hatred benefited the good people.
We got to get back to calling it Jewish science.
Yeah.
Get rid of all this Jew science. Making these fancy bombs.
Yeah, AI is Rastafarian science.
There you go.
AI.
Go back to the Jamaican Wars.
I used to try to do this joke. I thought it was funny. I used to try to do this joke. I was like, you ever realize like AI is kind of Jamaican? AI.
It's good. I like it.
It's one of those like retarded jokes that you have to kind of really get reggae for.
Yeah, but it is a funny idea.
I've tried
also
to
just Jamaicans using AI.
Yeah.
Like AI.
AI man.
How do I chop this tree in my backyard with a spoon?
How do I get the dreadlock?
Me no have no axe. I need atomic bomb.
Me have no axe, me have no spade.
Do they make bombs small enough to chop down trees?
Do they make bombs small enough to smoke the trees?
AI.
I take a mini bomb and light the trees now.
Atomic marijuana gets you so high.
It irradiates your mind.
Irradiates. Yeah, man. Well, first of all, I'm gonna kneel. I'm gonna kneel, Brennan, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
You keep your
right
head
now.
high enough, you're good.
I'm not gonna suck your dick, but this chair is hurting my ass so bad that I gotta give my tailbone a break.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's all good. I don't know what happened, because this is the same chair I sat in the last time I was here. I don't know. Maybe I just sat in it wrong.
Maybe.
I'm also paranoid sitting next to you because you're somebody who has gotten a cyst from sitting incorrectly for a long enough period of time.
Yes, but that was like weeks of like nodding out on my couch on opium. Being
Gotcha.
like, oh yeah, I don't feel my tailbone, but
So
that's
you
fine.
can't just get it from 2 hours,
No.
probably. Yeah. My ass is on fire right now.
This is because I was cycling between opium and 3-MeO-PCP and like Atizolam, which is like Xanax.
Right.
And I was just doing one a day.
Well, I am on 2.4 grams of kratom right
That's
now.
not enough.
Which is nothing.
No.
Enough that I can be very conscious and talk about things.
Yeah, I think I was taking the equivalent of like 50 to 80 milligrams of morphine.
Nice.
Which is like 20 to 30 milligrams of oxy.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm not gonna suck your dick. Don't worry.
Yet.
I'm not gonna do it. Yeah. Well, yeah. You guys let me know if I do.
Yeah.
Comment below if you see me sneaking one in.
Ooh, this kratom's getting to my head.
Yeah.
I feel like sucking dick.
Oh, I'm so gay for nuclear war right now.
Do you have those nicotine mints?
I might.
And would you be willing to part with one?
Yeah. But I want to get back to nuclear war.
Good.
Because
Because it's been a long time since we've had it.
here's what I want to know.
Yeah.
I do not have the nicotine mints.
That's okay. I'll
Bad,
forgive
my
you.
guy. Does it make you anxious? Have you been, because you've been
Yeah.
obsessing over nuclear war research.
Yes.
Like, for how long? When did it begin?
When Russia sent over that intermediate range ballistic
Does
missile.
it feel like a week and a half?
Probably a week.
Okay, so
I think it might have been last Tuesday that it happened.
week of going deep into the logistics of a nuclear war that may happen suddenly. Well, I guess to wrap up I kind of think at this point it would be a miracle if we didn't have a nuclear war. At least, if not in the near future. I mean, this is another thing that people are just so unbelievably dumb and short. So, like they'll think like, oh well, we haven't had a nuclear war yet, and we've had them around for what do you mean? We've had them around for less than 100 years.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing.
Like,
But also, if we have a nuclear war, it will last all about 3 hours.
right? In all likelihood.
Yeah. In all likelihood, I mean, it's possible somebody drops one small nuke, which is still 1 megaton, 20 times bigger than Nagasaki.
Yeah.
If somebody drops one small nuke on, say, Ukraine, we might not nuke back, because it's like, well, it's not us.
Yeah, it's not us, and we don't want to risk.
We don't want to end the
of
world.
civilization.
But we have said that if they nuke Russia, we will get involved in the war. Like,
Yes.
the U.S. will officially be at war with
At
Russia.
least on the ground.
Which already, we are at war with Russia. It is now not a Ukraine-Russia war. It is an American-Russian war.
It's
it is
always
a NATO.
been an American-Russia war, in my opinion.
But
as
it
long
wasn't-
as we've been funding them.
But it was a proxy war because we were just funding them. There are
Yeah.
right now...
We didn't put our boots on the ground.
As of last week, the intermediate range ballistic missile was sent in response to us crossing a red line. So, Russia had brought 10,000 North Korean troops to fight Ukraine.
Which is terrifying.
Insane.
Yeah.
In response, we allowed Ukraine to use these missile systems, long-range missiles called ATACMS.
Attack on Titans.
Yeah, sick 'em boys. That's what my brother said when I told him about this.
That's funny.
Yeah, and so we have ATACMS, and the British gave them Storm Shadow missiles, which are both long-range missiles, and we permitted them to attack Russian territory.
Yeah.
The only ones who can operate,
good.
the only ones who can operate the ATACMS, the American ones, are American experts
Okay.
at using them.
Yeah.
So we have American boots on the ground operating missile systems, sending long-range missiles into Russia right now.
Yeah.
We just sent 2 more today.
Right.
And their response was that intermediate range ballistic missile. And at that point, I was like, it was actually before the missile. The day of the missile drop, it happened at like 4 a.m. The day before
My
that.
favorite podcast, The Missile Drop.
With Anthony Fantano.
Yeah. His head's shaped like a mushroom cloud.
About 12 hours before that missile launch from Russia to Ukraine, I had started hearing, I think, Dave Smith's podcast from Legion of Skanks. He was talking about how it's crazy that we allowed these long-range missiles to be used on Russian territory by American experts.
Yeah, but I feel like it's more of a formality whether or not, because like, let's say we had trained Ukrainian people to do it, it's still, we're allowing it to happen.
Absolutely,
You know what I mean?
but it's a little bit closer when it's actually us. It's the difference between a war and a proxy war.
Right, but that's the thing, a proxy war is really a war. It's kind of a bullshit, terminology to begin with.
It is,
And
but
I'm not necessarily saying I'm anti-proxy war.
Yeah, fair.
I think that's a complicated question,
Yeah.
and I don't know all the logistics of should we have supported Ukraine, how much have we supported Ukraine. Certainly to the point that it ever becomes an existential threat to us, I think we should stop immediately.
Well, we also shouldn't have... Like, Ukraine shouldn't have ever been at war with Russia. Like, the reason they are is because we keep suggesting that Ukraine... I almost said Kratom. That Kratom can join NATO.
Yeah.
That Ukraine can join NATO. We've been suggesting that for a while. Like, being like, oh, they will have talks about it. They might be able to join. They are a sovereign, independent nation.
Yeah.
But ever since the end of World War II, when we split Germany down the middle, and we were like, Russia gets this, America gets this... And the Berlin Wall fell after that, and Russia said this is the furthest east that the NATO border will expand.
Right.
Is to that side of Berlin.
Right.
And since then, we have allowed, I believe, Crimea to join NATO. Sweden and Finland joined in the last few years.
And obviously the rest of Germany.
Yes.
But that was something that was agreed to by Russia, but not necessarily Putin himself.
Well, only the Berlin Wall part. That was the only thing agreed upon by Russia.
Right.
Everything else has been us saying, well, these are independent nations. They can join NATO if they want.
But
and
also
then Russia says, don't do it.
With Ukraine, do you know if we were literally meeting with Zelensky, like it was a done deal, they were joining NATO? Or
It was suggested.
in the air?
It was in the air.
Yeah.
Which it never should have been.
Probably not, but then again, both Russia and the U.S. say shit they're not going to do all the time.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, Russia said all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah. But also the U.S. will respond if they do, typically.
Yeah, but I think that Russia deserves more of the blame for being the ones to actually invade.
Maybe.
Unprompted.
But also, we could have just not suggested in the first place and let it be neutral, and it would have been fine.
I guess what I'm saying is that there's no way to prove that Russia wouldn't have invaded Ukraine anyways.
But it was a response to the NATO suggestion that they might join.
Well, there are people in Russia and certainly Putin who never wanted Ukraine to be sovereign to begin with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They view it as an extension of Russia culturally, for sure. They've talked about that before.
Yeah.
And there may be other regional reasons to gain control of Ukraine.
I mean, it's very rich
They also
soil.
thought that they were just going to walk over them, too. I mean, they
Yeah.
didn't think it was going to be anything near the level of bloodshed that it's been.
But who knows if it would have even happened if we hadn't suggested it.
That's what I'm saying. There's no way to know either way.
Yeah, but given that it was a response to something, you would imagine if the thing didn't happen in the first place, it wouldn't happen.
But how do you know for sure that it was a response to something?
Because
I don't know
that's
if
just the
Putin's-
order of events.
But I'm saying I don't know if Putin has come out or any Russian official and been like, we explicitly invaded Ukraine because we thought they were going to join NATO. I don't know if they've given any reason at all. You know, I mean,
Well, the West calls it a Russian war of aggression, saying
Right.
they want to take back certain regions because they're ethnically Russian.
I'm saying that could be part of it.
Maybe it's part
There's
of
no way
it.
to know for sure.
No, but it does seem like I did a long deep dive when I got COVID in like 2021 of just the whole history of the Cold War and
Yeah.
like the whole history of NATO's involvement with Russia and how we kept essentially saying this long strip between the West and Russia of like I think it was like Finland, Ukraine, Crimea, like stuff all along that one strip. It was like that's all going to be neutral.
Yeah.
And ever since then, NATO has allowed more of those countries to join.
Yeah.
That seems problematic.
Well, there's no question that it's problematic, and there's no question that whether we're the good guys or not, it's definitely us versus them.
Yeah.
You know, there's NATO versus Russia. Clearly, North Korea's on their side.
Yeah. But you would think that we would, if the world is maintained, if peace is maintained by mutually assured destruction, you'd think we would try to maintain peace instead of suggesting that we keep poking the bear.
Well, and also the notion that all the U.S. has ever done is try to maintain peace
and
in any
defend
region
these
is
sovereign nations.
utterly
from
ridiculous.
Yeah, the idea that all these things are completely unprovoked, which is the complete rhetoric coming out of our government.
Yeah.
This is an unprovoked war of aggression from Russia.
Well, that's been true for every geopolitical act of aggression that we have ties to.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
all
it's
kinds of shit in the Middle East.
But it's absurd that we still believe it.
Think about how much we demonize Iran.
Yeah.
Like, Iran is a super bad actor right now.
Yeah.
Make no bones about it. They are an extreme religious theocracy.
Yeah.
They fund the worst terrorist organizations in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But we absolutely are the reason they got that way in the first place.
Yeah.
They were a capitalist democracy.
Yeah, they
in
were a
the
great
50s,
country.
I think it was.
Yeah.
And we literally staged a coup less than 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It's not like this is ancient. This is fresh on their minds.
Yeah.
Less than 100 years ago, we staged a coup with the CIA to overthrow their democratically elected, the country that stands for democracy.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody's calling Trump a fascist. We overthrew their democratically elected leader to put a feudal lord, a Shah, in place.
Yeah.
And then the Iranian people hated the Shah so much that they were willing to put an Ayatollah in place instead.
Wow. Yeah.
Which an Ayatollah is like a religious god man,
Yeah.
essentially. Who they have, they believes that they speak the will of Allah and they're just doing everything
Yeah.
according to the Quran. So their version, the Shia version of I think they're Shia, not Shiite in Iran. But, we just absolutely fucking destroyed that entire country. You know what I mean? And now that they happen to be a superpower with burgeoning nuclear capabilities, we don't want to take any accountability,
Yeah.
Like, because, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's possible at this point to make peace with them or to, you can make temporary peace with them, but you're not going to talk them out of trying to become a nuclear superpower.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we try to do the Iran nuclear agreement that Trump tore up.
Yeah.
Because we were like, okay, we absolutely cannot trust them to not try to have nuclear capabilities. We're going to try to make them sign a pact that ensures that they don't get nuclear capabilities.
Yeah, and Trump was like, well, we're giving them all this money.
Yeah, well, Trump was like, we are part of what's making them sign the pact is that we're giving them a huge financial incentive to do so.
Yeah.
But then also I watched an interview with General H.R. McMaster where he was like, they're not following the fucking agreement anyways.
Yeah, fair.
Now, whether or not that's true, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or him just being hawkish.
It's the kind of thing where it's like, if we gave Russia all that money, would they not do it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. Supposedly, the Iranian nuclear agreement was such that American inspectors were allowed to come in at any point and look at their nuclear plants and make sure they weren't developing nukes.
Yeah.
But
they would also probably just build them elsewhere.
Knows? Yeah, build them underground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These people know how to build a fucking tunnel. I can tell you that.
Even
they're
though
like moles.
they're right next to the Jews, so they learn from good sources.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. I mean, I can't believe some of the footage of these Hamas tunnels. Like, how did they dig them that deep?
I haven't seen any of this stuff.
They're like miles and miles into the fucking earth.
Wow.
These like artificially man-made caves. That's why they can't find the hostages and shit like that.
That was the problem with the Jewish tunnels in New York. They weren't deep enough.
Did you mean the subway?
No. You didn't hear about the Jewish tunnels?
No.
So...
Oh, this is true. I thought that was just some crazy joke.
No, I wish. Dude, sometime in the last couple of years, these tunnels were uncovered. And there were, like, cots and things between them. Yeah. And they connected, like...
This sounds like an Alex Jones conspiracy.
No, this was, like, this sect of Ashkenazis, I believe. Or not Ashkenazis, Whoa. Sorry. It was the Orthodox, maybe Hasids, the Hasidics.
Yeah.
Who, there's this sect of Hasidics, I believe, who believe in this guy who is, like, a preacher in Brooklyn right now. They think he's the Messiah.
Oh, I gotta get the name of this guy.
Dude, they park their mitzvah tank outside my apartment. They blast Yiddish music.
Oh my god!
And it's they try to give mitzvahs to people who come by. They ask, "Oh, are you Jewish?" And if so, they start wrapping a thing around your arm and chanting and shit.
I'm such a bad East Coaster, but what is a fucking mitzvah?
A mitzvah is just like it's a blessing.
Mitzvah.
It's like a blessing.
And what do you mean a mitzvah tank?
It's called the mitzvah tank. It says that in big letters. It's a big, like, converted...
It's like a Hummer?
It's like a tour bus.
Okay.
But it's dude, it's crazy. It's
no way.
I see them out there on Shabbos where they can't use the technology, so it's like it's shut down, it's off, and they have like a little awning in the back of it, and they just have like they keep just this lawn chair out there and a couple of these like palm leaves or whatever that they use to like, I think it might wrap it around you, or that might be just like part of how they bless you.
Yeah. Holy shit, dude. We gotta sack the mitzvah tank on Shabbos.
Dude, the amount of times it's like blared music outside my apartment when I'm like waking up, and I'm just like, I have never been more anti-Semitic. If you're really, like, this is a tough time for the Jews, and especially in New York because of all the Israel stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, you really shouldn't be making things worse.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And blaring music is aggressive. They actually, on top of the bus, they have a loudspeaker system.
That's hysterical.
That is coming out of.
It must be the worst fucking music you've ever heard in your life.
It's not good.
Yeah. It's not Parliament Funkadelic.
No. If it was Parliament Funkadelic, I'd be getting down with the funk.
Yeah, black mitzvah tank.
I'd be swooning from the placebo syndrome.
Yeah. Wow. So who do they worship? Ben Shapiro?
Probably. But no, to this fucking, this Messiah guy.
But he's, I don't know what, like... Is the Messiah... Well, yeah, the Messiah is in the Jewish religion, right?
Jesus is the Christian Messiah.
Right, but the Jews believe that he hasn't come yet.
Yes, the Jews believe Jesus was a prophet. Some of them do, at least. And it wasn't the Messiah.
But they think that that this guy from Brooklyn might be the Messiah. Some Jews.
Yeah, it's like how the Rastafarians believe that Haile Selassie, the emperor of Ethiopia from 1930 to 1980 or whatever, was their Messiah.
There's a lot of fake messiahs. There's
Absolutely.
this Korean messiah guy.
Yeah.
Who I knew somebody who was in that cult.
Interesting.
Fucking weird.
There's a lot of Korean churches around here. Right across my street, I've got a Korean church.
There's some Korean mega church, I think, in Hartford or something.
Weird.
And I knew a black girl.
Yeah.
Who like was fully into it.
Wow.
Was like, yeah, this is the Messiah.
Was she adopted by Koreans?
No.
Wow.
Yeah. They bought that shit. Bill Maher of all people. And I'm not a Bill Maher fan. My mom is like the biggest Bill Maher fan. We get in fucking debates over him all the time because I think he's just a crotchety old man who's full of shit half the time. Although he makes some good points and he's better than like MSNBC hacks.
What's that new segment he has on Real Time?
New Rules.
New Rules.
Yeah. Oh no, that's his classic. He's had that for years.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I've only watched his Club Random.
Oh god.
Because he had Kevin Nealon on and Bill Burr.
It's one of the cringiest podcasts ever.
It's kind of cringe.
Yeah. For a guy who considers himself such an intellectual elitist, and then he has, like, the Hawk Tuah girl on.
Yeah.
Like, clearly you're just a big attention whore like every other fucking podcast host.
I don't
like
know,
us.
I don't know enough about Bill Maher, but if you want to be a Club
We're
Random...
going to have J.D. Vance on next.
My stand-up goal is to get on Club Random.
Yeah, I don't want to tank my reputation with the great Bill Maher.
No, Club Random is Club Random's the Carson of our age.
Yeah. Bill Maher is a very unifying figure. He's a real Bob Hope.
Yeah. He gets all people of all shapes and sizes on his side.
Listen, he had a fantastic documentary, though. I'll give him credit, called Religulous, back in, like, a long time.
Not Religulous?
Religulous is probably how it's pronounced, yeah.
Although Religulous sounds like Caligula, which is kind of cool.
It sounds cooler, but it's definitely wrong, and I feel like an idiot.
Yeah, fair.
Religulous. But it's basically, it's like a Michael Moore style documentary on, like, modern day Christianity, and he's just kind of exposing how hypocritical and ridiculous so much of it is, because he goes around and he meets multiple people claiming to be Jesus in this doc, and has, like, conversations with them. And... like, one of them is, like, Puerto Rican. One of them is, like, it just makes no sense at all. But every one of them has thousands and thousands of devout followers.
You know, Jesus also thought he could say the N-word. So it makes sense.
Jesus also wanted to build the wall. They're all rich as fuck. They're all getting donations from these people.
It's also so funny for a devout atheist to be calling Christians ridiculous and hypocritical. Because being an atheist, I would argue, is just as ridiculous and hypocritical.
I think it depends.
As opposed to being an agnostic. I have to specify that. I don't think that there is a God, but I also don't know anything.
Yeah, and I think that is the dictionary definition of atheism.
Maybe.
And I also think...
we were talking about this the other night.
Yeah, I don't think Bill Maher is one of those guys.
Okay.
Because you do get those guys.
Yeah, you really do.
Like, religiously know God.
Yeah.
They think they're cool.
They think they know things.
Yeah, they think that, like, physics has disproven the possibility of a God.
Yeah,
which
we
is
don't know shit about
fundamentally
physics.
Undisprovable. There will always be the possibility of a God.
And we're always finding out new shit about the universe that we had no idea about. So.
Atheism literally, it's atheism phonetically, which literally just means you are not a theist.
Yeah.
A theist is somebody who believes in a spiritual deity. They don't necessarily believe in the Christian God, but you believe in God, you believe in Allah, you believe in one God that was the creator of the universe and preceded all life and stuff like that. So if you are...
So it's an atheist as opposed to a non-theist, or like an anti-theist.
Yes.
An anti-theist would be like somebody who's like, there is no God.
Like, there's definitely no God. Like, I believe that there's no God as much as a Christian. And in all fairness, belief in God, like, if you're a Christian, doesn't necessarily mean you would say, and I think most Christians wouldn't say, I'm 100% sure that God exists.
No, a lot of them say belief is a choice. Faith is a choice.
Right. And so...
And it's hard for a lot of them too. Norm Macdonald was a big proponent of how faith is a choice you make, and it's extremely hard.
It is a choice.
Yeah.
And we have faith in all kinds of different aspects in our life.
Yeah, and we have faith in science. It's all theories still, technically.
Yeah, certainly some aspects of science.
I mean, it's got to be everything, because considering if we lived in a simulation...
This is true.
Like, all of it would be based on fake information.
Well, I mean, I guess maybe not in the sense that the difference with science is that science can be... There are things that we can very accurately... Well, things we can completely predict with the rules of mathematics and physics.
Yes.
So, to me, it seems like that is a truth of a kind. Now, if we were in a simulation, the laws of physics and mathematics, kind of like a code, you could change the code at any time.
And also, we would be like, we'd think that, it's because atoms interact this way, but it's really just like binary code.
Right. But
on its true fundamental
while a code is fixed, I feel like it is real, so to speak, or it does work.
Yeah.
Like, you can change the code, but that doesn't mean that the original code
wasn't accurate at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel the difference between science and religion, because there's a lot of cult-like conspiracy theorists who will try to say that, physicists are just as ridiculous as religious people. And I think it's just important to outline that key difference.
Yeah.
That good science, and there's some bullshit science. There are
Yeah.
people who try to make claims that we're not anywhere close to proving. We're not close to proving that there are parallel universes or that string theory works. But
we're pretty close.
yeah, we're
Dude,
fairly close.
So this gets into quantum computers. Quantum computers calculate they make calculations in their binary code.
Yeah.
Instead of using transistors that are in computers, like a computer's made up of billions of transistors that are part of like the motherboard and shit. That's where all the binary code is conducted within each little transistor. Quantum computers use atoms.
Yes.
As that transistor, the smallest particle that you can use.
Fascinating.
So
they can
packs
just
that
do
much.
way more computation.
It's got that much more computational power in it.
Yeah.
It's gonna make like in-person science, like the practice of like, let me do a chemistry experiment. It's gonna make that moot. It's all gonna be simulated.
Yeah. There are sci-fi stories and stuff that have been written about quantum, because if you had a quantum computer, you could do things like hack into people's bank accounts very easily.
There will be no code anymore.
Right.
It'll all be breakable.
Yeah.
And they're thinking, this Michio Kaku dude who's on Rogan and shit a lot, he thinks that it's going to be 10 years until we perfect the quantum computer.
I don't know how much I buy. I mean, again, I don't want to attack him individually, but there's just science. Like there's
always conflicting theories.
There's a famous trope of prominent scientists that they love to make predictions and profit off of their predictions.
Yeah.
Right? So you'll get one scientist who's all about like, oh yeah, this is for sure what's going to happen. This is for sure what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then they sell their book.
And I think a lot of them are also wishful thinkers with the timeline for this to actually occur.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
But
so
his suggestion is also that because of the particle wave theory, which is the idea that when observed, particles maintain their form as particles. If you launch a bunch of electrons, they will land in the way that you expect them to against a wall. This is like the double slit theory.
Yeah.
You gotta look into it. I can't really describe it all. But essentially, when they're not observed, they become waves.
Yes, which is insane.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just as crazy as religion, basically.
So Kaku suggests that quantum computers not only compute with atoms, they compute in parallel universes.
Right.
Our quantum computers that we have already developed.
Yes.
That aren't complete, but they can do certain things. Calculate in parallel universes.
Well, I think that is one of the most compelling arguments. I wouldn't say against God.
Yeah.
But would make the existence of a God unnecessary.
Yeah.
To explain how the universe came to be. Because there's I forget if I talked about this with you. Yeah, that's right. Me and your brother were talking about this in the apartment. I mean, even amongst scientists, physicists, Jesus Christ, we're trying to have a very serious intellectual conversation here.
I gotta keep it light.
Swear to God, yeah.
Dude, people either love
This is a comedy podcast.
People either love or hate the burps, dude. I had a friend come on. He's a friend of mine. He came on stage at a mic the other day after I was on and burped in the mic twice. And he was just like, I'm trying not to get angry at Nick for burping into this mic.
Yeah. Well, with the mic, too, you could get some germaphobes.
Yes.
Which doesn't really make sense because you're blowing hot air either way.
I'm a germaphobe, too. I agree. It's like, you spit into the mic anyway, you have hot breath into the mic. Any smell is going to be gone.
Yeah.
It's like, people rest...
Some people...
Dude, what's way more gross, people rest the mic on their chin or, like, next to their lip. That's disgusting.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's filthy. A burp is fucking whatever.
Yeah, it is whatever. It actually, tonight I thought it was a smart move because it got people's attention immediately.
That's it's a great go-to on stage if no one's having fun or even if just a joke bombs.
Yeah.
It's a great save.
Yeah.
To just
people
be
like, oh...
Yeah,
he just burped into the fucking microphone.
It's completely unexpected, and it's just funny. Burps and farts are timelessly funny.
Well, I was going to interject. I am one of those people, for whatever reason, I'm innately grossed out by both of them.
Well, a fart I get because you're trapped in a room with the smell.
The scent.
And
But
it's
also,
like poop
it's
particles. That's disgusting.
it's what it makes you think about. It's like I've never been into potty humor because anytime anybody brings up burps, farts, poop, pee, it puts that image in my brain
Yeah.
immediately, and it's something that grosses me because I'm like super sensitive.
Well, this is funny. I've never had a problem with burps. I've always had a problem,
Burps are the least offender.
Yes, if I got any
But
of
back
those
to
other
the universe,
things,
no.
if any of those other things happened in this room right now, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, but if
you
burped,
farted right now, I'd laugh, but I'd be like, open the door, turn on the fan.
right? Well, especially if I did it out loud.
Yeah, but this is the thing. I never really felt like I smelled burps until recently.
Somebody's got to be pretty close.
Somebody's got to be close, and it's got to be something real weird that they ate.
Yeah,
Like if they ate garlic bread, sure.
I'm just a pretentious, ladylike fuck.
No, some people are that way. I guess burps are crazy.
I like to burp under my breath. When I burp out loud, it makes me feel like a pig.
Yeah,
But I don't hard judge other people.
but it is funny.
It can be in certain contexts.
Especially, like, I always thought it was funny in like high school, the guy who could burp on command.
Well, even in middle school,
Yeah.
I never learned how to do that.
I've figured it out in the last couple of years.
You're gonna have to teach me. What the fuck were we talking about? Okay.
Kaku, parallel universes.
With like, I forget up until like the advent of quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
Most of the world's most greatest scientists believed in God, or at least many of them did. Einstein was a big God believer.
Yes.
And they did so on, I think, some rational grounds, one of which is one of the oldest arguments for the existence of God, philosophical arguments, which is called the Kalam cosmological argument,
Yeah.
which very simply states, kind of hard to argue with until quantum mechanics comes along, which is that the universe seems to have begun to exist.
Yes.
Physicists have believed that for a long time, ever since, they proved the Big Bang.
Yeah.
That basically that before the Big Bang, there doesn't appear to be space, there doesn't appear to be time.
Yeah.
There doesn't appear to be anything at all. And then the Big Bang happens, and then you get into a bunch of abstract, tough questions to answer, which is like, well, what do you mean there was no space and time?
Yeah, what do you mean by nothing?
What do you mean by nothing?
How can there be existence in the first place with nothing there?
Well, Lawrence
Existence
Krauss,
would be something.
the physicist Lawrence Krauss wrote a pop best-selling set called, I think it's called Something from Nothing or something like that. But right, how can you not have something before something? But basically, the Kalam cosmological argument would be, okay, well, everything in the universe is a product of something that came before.
Yeah.
Right? You can break human beings down into atoms and subatomic particles and then into quarks and then eventually into just energy, right? Electromagnetism, gravity. And it's like, so whatever came before that has to be something that is totally outside of the laws of physics.
Yeah.
And it has to be something that was eternal. It had to be something that is not bound by the constraints of time.
Yes.
And so at that point, you're basically describing... It still doesn't have to be God. And then there's further arguments for how, all right, well, the universe seems to have been made with some type of design in mind. It seems to have an architectural bent, so it's probably a sentient being. But all of that goes out the window once you have the possibility, which we now think is the likely probability of parallel universes in quantum mechanics. Because by that logic... the same way, electrons can be in two different parallel universes simultaneously or whatever. The universe could have spawned off from, let's say, another universe. There could be an infinite system of parallel universes that have always been. There's nothing that came before them.
Yes.
The only reason why we even thought that something came before the universe is because we can trace our universe back to a very specific point in time.
Yeah.
If we couldn't trace it back to a point in time, then it could have been infinite.
Yeah.
But if what preceded that point in time was just some other universe or infinite universes, then at that point you can easily just believe something called pantheism, which is the belief that basically the universe is God.
Panpsychism.
Panpsychism?
I think.
I thought it was called pantheism.
Maybe they're similar concepts, I think. Panpsychism is the idea that everything has consciousness.
Right, which that I think is much less provable.
And that consciousness is a pervasive thing throughout all things.
That's something that I don't know if you could ever prove. I don't know if there's a way to prove that
we'd
atoms
have to be able
have
to
consciousness.
We'd have to be able to define consciousness and also find the root of consciousness in humans.
But just basically being like, okay, the universe, by basically Occam's razor, right? The universe is fundamentally unexplainable and as objectively preposterous as a god.
Yeah.
Why would you need something equally unexplainable and preposterous to explain it?
Yeah.
Why be like, okay, there had to be a god who created the universe. Well, the universe could also be infinite.
And also, where would that god exist?
Right. I mean, and there's certainly no way to ever prove him or find him unless he reveals himself.
Yeah. I mean, the idea that there was ever something that created everything.
Yes.
That something is part of that something is a thing.
It's a thing, but it could be a thing that breaks the laws of physics. But again, even our modern understanding of the laws of physics gets into mysticism.
Yes.
We're never going to be able to fully understand how physics works. We might be able to quantify it on a mathematical level.
Yeah.
And even quantum mechanics, there's some inherent variance involved. Quantum mechanics isn't perfectly predictive.
Yeah.
Like some forms of mathematics.
I imagine, the way I see things, I mean...
I don't think it'll ever make sense to human beings, though.
No. It seems like the only thing that could be is that something has always existed, and this is everything that exists is part of that thing.
Yeah, that's what I think it probably is.
I can't imagine anything else.
But I identify as an atheist, and the only reason why I identify as an atheist is because I think that it's technically, like by dictionary definition, it's what I believe, and it's what most atheists believe. Like,
yeah.
I am not a theist. I don't believe in a god at all. I don't have an absolute belief that there's no God, but that's not what atheism is. Agnosticism, to me, is just this sort of... It's this false, like, negative. It's this, like, separating itself from an atheism that was falsely defined to begin with.
Yeah, maybe.
It was developed by a guy named Thomas Huxley.
Do you know what Gnostic means?
Gnostic?
Yeah.
I know about, like, Gnostic monks and stuff.
Yeah, and I know about the concept of gnosis.
Yeah, but I don't know exactly what it means.
Because that would be interesting, what the actual difference is etymologically.
Interestingly, Aldous Huxley, the great author who wrote Brave New World.
And The Doors of Perception.
The Doors of Perception. Shout out to The Doors, one of my favorite bands.
Oh, yeah. It was one of the earliest trials of mescaline in a human being, too.
Wow. People don't realize that The Doors is an abbreviation for The Doors of Perception.
No, yeah. Yeah, I learned about that early on when I was into taking acid.
Which makes the name of that band so much more sick.
Totally. Well, they were like one of the psychedelic bands. Like the real, like, we are committed to the psychedelic spiritual journey.
Yeah, even though they have a lot of just, like, pure rocker tunes.
Yeah.
Or, like, cool tunes.
Blood on the streets of New Haven.
Blood is of the stone.
You know that song that references New Haven, though?
No.
Oh, so he got arrested for jerking off on stage in New Haven.
I know that story.
And he got some song that's like, some, and the streets of New Haven.
God damn. Thugging out. And we are in, well, I'm not going to give your location.
No, we're in Connecticut.
Near New Haven, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Aldous Huxley's father was a guy named Thomas Huxley.
Okay.
Thomas Huxley's nickname was Darwin's Bulldog.
Hmm.
Charles Darwin, I mean, so many scientists and religious people tried to poke holes in Charles Darwin's theories of how they did not, and then the ones who couldn't poke holes, they just tried to block it from ever becoming a thing.
Yeah.
Like, we cannot ever have people accept evolution.
There's apparently a very good old black and white movie about the Scopes monkey trial.
I bet it is.
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch that.
Thomas Huxley was like a well-known public intellectual. He was like a Christopher Hitchens type guy. He basically went on the circuit and like is a big reason why Darwinism, he like pushed it through.
Yeah.
But I don't know how for whatever random reason, he coined the term agnostic. So it's a relatively recent, it's a 20th century invention.
Interesting.
And it pisses me off because agnostic is just like the easiest like person who doesn't want to think about things.
Well, so is atheism. It's the same idea.
Yeah, but people, I find, I could be wrong, but in my opinion of talking to atheists and agnostics, I agree there's a subsect of people who call themselves atheists that are like really douchey.
I always figured agnostic is a way of separating yourself from them.
It is. It's also a way of just, I don't know. Most of the people I know who identify as agnostic, I guess you being an exception, because you probably identified as agnostic.
To not be lumped in with people who are
right.
like vehemently anti.
That's fair enough.
Theistic.
Yeah. I know a lot of agnostics that are just like, well, I've never thought about it and I don't want to think about it.
Yeah, fair.
You know? But there are also a lot of atheists who are equally dumb in the sense that they're like, well, I've thought about it and I've concluded that no way there's a God.
Yeah, really. I believe in science, not God.
Yeah. I believe in math.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what you believe in.
Yeah.
Magic.
There's so many people who are just like, there's no way there's a God, you fucking idiot, I'm an atheist.
Right. Which is
Bill Maher.
Is a dumb position.
I shouldn't state what Bill Maher's opinions are.
Yeah.
I could only imagine.
I actually don't know. I know Bill Maher thinks that religious people are really stupid and cult-like, which
is fair.
Often is the case.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's a militant atheist.
Yeah.
I know that like Dawkins and those, although Dawkins has said many times that he is technically an agnostic.
Dude, it always blows me away when I meet young Christians.
Oh, they're on the rise, actually.
Big time.
Yeah, which is crazy.
But it's so shocking that it's like, as science gets more and more powerful,
yeah,
people are like, nah,
I
God.
think, famous last words, but I think that it is, not that it's a final push, but
yeah.
I think there's a seesaw, right? I mean,
sure.
For people who are like, oh, you know, whoever comes next is gonna instate theocratic military dictatorship. It's like, think of where we've come from. You know what I mean? I mean, just I saw some insane stat. I forget where I saw it, but basically like how many people believed in God 100 years ago versus now.
Yeah,
it's like we've already moved so far in a more secular and in a more liberal direction.
Yeah,
as a world. In you know, first world countries, most first world countries,
yeah,
and especially Western countries, that like it's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
Yeah,
you know, and I view a big part of Trumpism and like the modern conservative surge in the last 10 years as just the swinging a little bit back. It's a little bit of an overcorrection.
Yeah, those
people being like, no, you're not gonna fucking just steal the football forever.
Well, it's interesting. I mean? I'm not even thinking of people who have become Christian recently. I'm thinking people who grew up in it, and they're just like, they never hit that point in life where they're like, you know, it kind of seems like bullshit.
Well, a lot of them never will, though.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a lot of people from the Midwest or the South or any sort of communities that are more fundamentally based in those kind of traditions.
Yeah, but there are pockets of those everywhere.
Yes.
They're more common there, but you see it in Connecticut, you see it in New York.
Oh, big time. I would argue it's very common among Black and Latino communities too.
100%.
Italians probably, I would say, are particularly bent toward that.
Definitely the older ones. Yeah. I mean, it's just culture.
And Republicans generally too.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I...
Can you hold this down for 10 seconds while I get water?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Don't talk shit in front of my back.
Nick is fucking disgusting with his burps and his agnosticism. This guy. No, I went to Catholic school K to 8th grade, and I was the earliest person to identify as an atheist. I remember.
Oh wow!
At one point I was the only person in my like middle school class.
Mm.
But since then like a lot of my friends are like, yeah, I don't go to church anymore. I don't really believe in God anymore. But one of them became a priest.
Wow.
You know, I went to school with a kid who's now a priest.
But you didn't grow up believing in God, did you? Like, did you grow up going to church and shit?
You know, it's weird. My parents had a weird relationship with, I think my dad really wanted to believe in God.
Really?
At one point in his life.
Wow.
Oh yeah, he definitely believed in God for a long time. I think he was raised Christian.
I'm surprised because he's a science guy.
Well, now he's an atheist, for what it's worth.
Okay.
So eventually, but it just took him a long time to undo the brainwashing.
Yeah, it took him marrying your mom.
Yeah.
There is no God.
How could there be with this horrid woman? But no, there's a lot of scientists who believe in God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is, it is true, especially like theoretical physicists and stuff. I mean, some scientists, it's like, whatever, you know.
Well, theoretical physicist, it almost gets to a point where you're like, the only solution is God.
Or figuring out, well, I mean, this is kind of the eternal plight of the theoretical physicist.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you trying to figure something out that probably will never be figured out?
Well, there's that, and there's also the idea that it's like, at what point is a scientific explanation of the universe really different from God? At what point are they really saying different things?
Only in the sense that, well, first of all, very different from a Christian God.
Well, the personification of God, but a lot of Christians don't believe in a personified God.
I'd argue probably most of them do.
I don't know, my cousin's a pastor, and I was talking to him about this when I was heavy into psychedelics, and he gave the idea that it's really up to the individual.
I mean, it is up to the individual, but at least most of the Christians that I've met think of it as not necessarily a really specific type of person, like the concept that God is a man, for example.
Well, I think a lot of them are superficial Christians. They're not really involved in theology. They go to church.
Yeah, but that's most Christians.
It is,
How many
but
Christians are involved in theology?
I mean, like, real Christians. Like, people who believe in God and have a deep relationship with the religion. And with it, and a deep contemplation of God.
Some of those guys are the biggest extremists of them all, though.
In terms of personification of God?
Yeah, like if you talk to the Pope or the Cardinals or like people who are Catholicism, they absolutely believe in the Old Testament God. And somebody with that personality.
But they also have a financial thing to gain from. Catholics generally,
they're more hardcore.
They're way more hardcore.
But that's the biggest sect.
It is, but
Yeah.
I mean, Catholic is it bigger than Protestants as a whole? Probably.
I think so, but
But
that
even
is a good
so,
point when you add up all the different sects of Protestantism.
Yes, it really departs. Like my cousin's a Lutheran pastor.
Yeah,
and they're pretty easygoing.
Either way, though, I would say theoretical physicists. They're not. Most of them, I don't think their primary goal is to fully explain the universe. It's
if they could, they would.
If they could, they would. But a lot of them know that they can't.
Yeah, so they take little pieces apart.
They want to just discover more.
Yeah,
they want to move the needle of science. And by the way, there's real practical usage for that.
Yeah,
too.
you put one foot in front of the other. Eventually, you complete the journey.
Yeah, and it could be a really necessary journey at some point for human civilization to continue surviving.
Well, I always wonder, this gets into AI too, it seems as if humans, the idea that what humanity really seems to be, like what a person seems to be, is at its most fundamental level, like when you take away everything about a person that's not the person, what are you left with?
Their brain.
Their brain, but take away parts of the brain, what do you don't have a visual cortex, you're still a person.
Yes.
Take away different parts of that, it's consciousness.
Yeah. And we don't know exactly what in the brain creates consciousness.
We don't know shit about consciousness. There's so little we know.
Yeah, I know, which is amazing.
And I always wonder
if it's unknowable.
Well, not even that. If consciousness is what makes humans humans, then if AI develops consciousness and it's able to, because it can't evolve on its own, it's able to improve upon other robots.
Yeah.
If it has consciousness, I don't see how it would be distinguishable from humans in terms of in terms of what makes you an individual.
I agree.
And if that's the case, then
we can marry robots, and I don't have to worry about women anymore.
Yes.
Yeah. Like the movie
they'll
Her.
still have to be all trans for you, but
They still have to have penises.
Yeah, that's all. That's the only ones who are gonna want you.
Yeah. I'm gonna get left swiped by all the robots.
You only get fat and trans robots swiping on you.
I have a joke that's actually a true story about how most of the women who like me on dating apps are transgender women. And I got nothing against transgender women, but I am only interested in dating cisgender women.
Yeah.
It just happens to be my sexual preference. Shoot me.
And
I
white.
know, I'm a fascist. Yeah.
And white women.
White robots. Yeah.
But my point is, I'd see if AI becomes essentially human in that way. At what point is AI going to be able to maintain its functioning while removing more parts of non-essential parts of consciousness?
Well, it just gets to the question of, again, how the fuck do you create consciousness?
Yeah.
I definitely, I think consciousness is certainly clearly not uniquely human.
Yeah.
Right? Because they've shown it in other really advanced animals.
Yeah.
But then it's like, well, then what? Like...
But even that's intelligence. That's not even consciousness, necessarily.
Well...
It's self-referential ability.
I don't know.
That might count as consciousness.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if you can indisputably prove that something has consciousness without it telling you, I have consciousness.
Well, to be fair, it's disputed. It's disputable that any other human being but yourself has consciousness.
Right.
Because of that Descartes thing or whatever.
Right. But chimps, dolphins, they certainly seem to display, they'll look at themselves in the mirror and they'll remember people who've died. And
they have a self-referential capability.
But the question is, what creates that? It's neurons, basically. Yeah. And how much...
Well, we don't know if it's neurons. We don't know where the consciousness originates. We don't know if it begins in the body or if it comes from outside the body and is harnessed by the brain.
I know that there are some, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I think there are some neurologists who would dispute that. There's some people who think that, okay, we know it's in the brain. We even have a pretty good idea of the region of the brain where it likely stems from, but we don't know how the fuck that region of the brain does that.
Maybe. I don't know if that's the case. In 2016, when I took a class on this, at least, it was not yet determined. And it was called the big gap or something like that, or like the major gap.
Right.
Which is just this idea of like, we figure we have consciousness and we don't know. And we figure that it starts in the brain.
Well, the reason
why...
Or
that it is used by the brain, but we don't know if it originates somewhere in the brain or if the brain has like a kind of radio antenna that harnesses it from outside the brain.
Right. Well, by that logic, though, you would... the reason why we think it's in the brain, of course, is because if you remove somebody's brain...
then they cease to have it.
Right. You can chop their arms off, their legs off.
Yeah.
Now, it's not just the brain, because you can also fuck up somebody's brain by destroying their spinal cord or things that are connected to the brain.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's all...
It's your central nervous system.
Central nervous system, I think you could accurately say, is where consciousness arises.
Yeah, and it would take a lot of probably unethical experiments of removing parts of that until you find out where...
Turns out you can ground somebody's brain into a fine paste, but as long as you preserve this section of their spine, they're still there, and they can still speak Spanish.
And the brain paste goes great with Manchego.
And they're voting for RFK Jr.
But my theory is eventually we will remove so much of the body that all we are left with is consciousness. At some point, it's possible at least that the evolution of humans to AI to whatever comes after that eventually leads to, and this has been theorized by like sci-fi stuff all throughout time.
Yeah,
is like, robots become brains in a vat, which become non-bodily consciousness.
Right.
Which in a lot of sci-fi at least pervades to it becomes everything. Once you become non-bodily, your consciousness expands to become a universe.
Here's the question: is there something unique about neurons? Like, is something that can you ever make something that fully resembles a neuron? Just like whatever we're doing to make AI with circuitry and coding, and it's still not a neuron. It's something else. So how could that something else have the exact same experience that we're having if it's not made of the same thing that we are.
If it serves the same function, our bodies are biological robots. We just happen to be made of natural tissue.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't know if there'd be any way to do it other than making it. Like, I think you could probably grow a brain at some point.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you can make
an electronic brain.
An electronic brain that is just like ours. Maybe it can clearly compute some things and do call and response.
Yeah.
But can it have things like self-identification, and emotion, and creativity?
Well, if it's interconnected, I mean, theorizing the fact that the idea that all of those self-referential capabilities and intelligence come from electrical signaling between neurons in the brain. Theoretically, if we could map the human brain, instead of using living tissue, we create it with artificial tissue, and we have those same electrical impulses sent in the same ways, or at least all the connections are there for them to do so. Theoretically, it should yield the same result as a human brain.
You want to try this, like, after the podcast?
Yeah, you got a test subject?
Well, I mean, we just need the circuits and shit, right?
Yeah.
We need the materials.
Yeah, where do we get the materials?
I'm not going to kill anybody.
Oh.
I don't know. You got a lot of metal and you got a lot of machines in your house.
We got to kill somebody.
Okay, yeah. Just to get it out of the system.
Yeah, after that we could look for metal.
No, man. Yeah, it is. Because the scary thing is, if we can create consciousness, right, with robot, there's no question that, because robots are going to be better than us in every single way.
Yeah.
In every conceivable way, they're going to be superior than us.
Yeah.
The only thing we could even possibly have over them is the fact that we have this animal thing.
Yeah. They would probably be interested in us as an early development of consciousness and intelligence in nature.
There's a great
like how we think of apes and monkeys and stuff.
I'm reading Dune, right, the actual book.
Yeah.
Because I haven't wanted to see the new movies until I finish the book. I've heard the movies aren't that great anyways.
I wasn't thrilled. I have friends who were obsessed with them.
Yeah.
I fell asleep during both.
Well, my dad's a big Dune head. I mean, he read it, and he's read all the prequels, but there's one. He's a big fan of the prequels.
Yeah.
He says that the prequels are like where it's at. Aside from the first book, Dune 1, which is the classic, he's like, you should read Dune 1 and then read the prequels.
Oh, wow.
Because they're the best books.
Yeah.
And there's a character he told me about named Erasmus, I think is the name of this character. It's a robot in the Dune prequels who operates on humans. It's like a Leonardo da Vinci of robots, basically. Yeah. Which I just thought was a really cool idea for a character. I was like, that makes me want to read that prequel. It's this robot who's like just absolutely fascinated by human beings and what makes them tick.
Interesting.
And so I don't know if I think after they already die, I don't know if he kills them. I think they're like already dead and he just has like these human bodies strewn around his lab and he's tinkering with their brain, trying to figure out the differences.
You know, interestingly, there have been Amazon is using robots right now to pick out items in warehouses and fulfill orders for shipments and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's found that they are very ineffective at choosing replacements for orders that aren't there. Like, if, say, somebody orders a TV, they don't have the LG, you're going to get a Samsung instead, because that's the same stats and everything, whatever.
Right.
A robot wouldn't pick out as good of a choice as a human would.
I'm going to suck your dick again.
Nice.
Oh, God.
Oh,
I don't know what it is with this chair. It didn't bother me at all the last time.
Yeah, well, we were sitting on it for a while earlier while we were listening to funk.
Yeah, we've been sitting down for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. Well...
Make sure your head's not blocked by that microphone. I could also move the microphone.
I don't want them to see me sucking your dick, dude. His dick's on his knee.
My donk.
Yeah, well, it is can't keep up with humans in that capacity yet.
Yeah.
But we're still in the baby stages.
Yeah.
I think.
I'm going to check the phone while we're at it, too.
You wonder, though, because that is the narrative being peddled by, Elon Musk and OpenAI type of people, is that, like, oh, we're just at the beginning. But it's kind of the same thing people say about the brain. Like, we're just at the beginning of understanding the human brain. It's like, how do we know as people who are pretty relatively uneducated in the matter, how do we know that there's this that there's so much more to understand? Like, what if we hit a point where it really is just this is the limitation of our understanding? You know, maybe you can't make machines infinitely complex and capable. Maybe we'll just hit a brick wall.
It's possible.
That would be great in a way, I think. Well, I mean, that could save our lives. Because if it really is this thing, like they're predicting, where it's it's completely inevitable that AI will be smarter than humans, soon, more capable than humans soon, you'll have robots that are like androids, that will probably result in our demise.
I don't know, because it's also with those capabilities comes the ability to supercharge humans.
Yes.
And this is another thing I heard Michio Kaku talking about.
But we could potentially supercharge. We could go down the same path of having our brains in vats without creating an artificial consciousness that kills us all.
Yeah, but I'm thinking in terms of the idea is that robots would be highly intelligent and highly physically capable. We could do that to ourselves with enough technology. Neuralink could essentially boost our mental capabilities.
Yes.
So that we become superhuman in intelligence.
Right.
It can boost our physical abilities by curing aging.
But superhuman is still human. You know, we would still maintain those parts of ourselves.
But at that point, AI is human. The idea would be we can turn a human being into a robot.
I don't know.
If you replace,
I think could.
It's like when you talk about there's that old thought problem of you got an old boat, and you start replacing the wood, and you start replacing the nails and the paint, and at what point is it a new boat? If all of it is replaced, is it the same boat or is it a new boat?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you start replacing it with enough shit, it's for sure a different boat.
Yeah.
And that's when you say, well, you can turn a human into a robot. You could turn a human into a robot, but then it wouldn't be a human anymore. It would be a robot.
True, but at that point, it's at what point are you splitting hairs? If both of them are conscious, if both of them are intelligent?
Well, that's what I'm saying. At some point, you might lose an element of consciousness or an element of whatever else makes human beings human.
Or what if you don't? What if we stop having a dichotomy between humans and robots? What if at some point it's just these are both conscious entities?
It is possible.
Some people are completely natural, some people are completely artificial, some people are halfway between. They're cyborgs.
That, to me, is the path that, kind of like with nukes, I think it's more likely than not, over time, it will result in our complete destruction.
Of humans.
Yes.
Just because it could
be version of humans.
Because it could be that we all become robots.
You could also say it like this: not our destruction, our evolution. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it could be that we, as we currently are, kind of like we're the new Neanderthals.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And it's interesting because it's on an ethics level, I don't think it is wrong to evolve into robots.
No.
However, I do think that there is something unique and worthwhile about preserving humanity.
Isn't it funny if cavemen were scared? Like, if cavemen fucking hated us.
Yeah.
They were just like, these fucking sissies. Like, they don't have hair on their foreheads anymore.
Yeah, they're weak.
Like, they suck.
Yeah, they're tinkering with things.
How do we let ourselves turn into this?
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't just rape to have sex anymore. They have consensual sex.
Yeah, unless they're in
India. What are you talking about? Indians are just no. Indians are a different race.
This brings up
two different species.
Let's one step back from the Indian thing. This brings up two interesting points. One, I had this idea recently. If we are to give birth to AI, and that's the next evolution of humanity,
we will give birth vaginally.
Yeah, but
when we do,
what if a lesser life form than us gave birth to humans?
Well, that's technically true.
It is technically true, but what if monkeys literally made us? Yeah, what if guppies made us? What if let's not bring up the individual we were discussing for that bit. But what if a fucking spider monkey tinkered with some shit and then all of a sudden was like, oh fuck, I spilled this juice on my wife and now she's becoming a human.
Yeah, now she's bitching at me and asking for consent.
Yeah, now she's having a period.
Yeah.
She's criticizing me about having to go buy tampons.
Right. It could be an accident.
It could be.
It could be an accident. Or it could be some mad scientist already has it, or has a prototype, or we're further along than we already think we are.
Yeah. It's interesting that it could be just some, like a rat steps on some shit. Or like a smart rat is, like, doing some shit, but it's like
an X-Men shit.
Yeah, it's like, we're not that... I was hearing somebody talk about this in listening to all these podcasts. Somebody was like, we're not that smart as humans, but we're able to make these robots that are going to theoretically be superhuman in intelligence.
Yeah.
What if some dumb fucking monkeys just made something that's super monkey in intelligence? And that's humans.
Monkeys aren't... First of all, can I eat this protein bar?
Yeah, sure.
Is it going to fuck with the mic or something?
I mean, if you're not talking with your
Crunching
mouth full
sounds.
and crunching right into it.
I'll do whatever the fuck I want.
It's the benefit of not having individual mics right up to our face, is that they don't hear as much.
We should have, like, Cirque du Soleil mics, like the fucking Zoom mics.
like we're giving a...
Monkeys just weren't advanced enough to do that. Monkeys, they didn't have anything in their capacity that was one step away from making a human. Now,
that's a good point.
The reason why monkeys eventually evolved into humans, I mean, there's all kinds of theories. There's theories that they took DMT. There's theories that they made fire and that fire accelerated. Well, that's more of a caveman thing. But yeah, we are now at a point where it literally could be a single discovery.
Yeah.
Potentially. Just one thing where it's like, oh shit, there's consciousness. What the fuck? My laptop's crying all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, that's literally the plot of Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
Have you seen Ghost in the Shell?
The original?
Yeah.
Yeah, the anime, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched it. I thought it was fantastic. It's one of my favorite. I always loved those cyberpunk anime. Those are some of the only ones that I still think hold up.
I still haven't seen Akira.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about
that's crazy.
Yeah, man, it's probably the most visually stunning of any anime I've ever seen. And it's hand-drawn. The difference between that and other anime that were hand-drawn is that the budget for Akira was crazy, and they used twice as many drawings, like twice as many frames per second, all hand-drawn frames.
Wow.
So a typical one is like, say, 30 frames per second. These have like 60. So every hand-drawn animation looks so much more smooth.
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I don't know how I've seen so many of the classics and anime, obviously.
Yeah. Something about those cyberpunk ones always got me in terms of like the old 80s, 90s cyberpunk animes.
Yeah, Evangelion.
There were some weird ones too, though, like Bubblegum Crisis and
I've heard of that one.
Yeah,
Gundam, of course. It's not really cyberpunk.
No.
It's
but like
mechs and shit.
Venus Wars. The precursor to Bubblegum Crisis, which I think was Gunbuster. Yeah, Gunbuster.
What the fuck is Bubblegum Crisis about?
These fucking chicks with mechs.
Right on.
But it's like an R-rated thing. Like there's a scene where there's just like titties out and shit.
And that's such a benign name for a cyberpunk thing.
Totally, but it's girls in the 80s, so it was like Bubblegum Crisis.
Right. It's not like Evangelion. Evangelion is such a weird anime.
Incredibly weird.
I remember when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is... As an anime fan who's like seen quite a few anime.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't think that as I went like back further in time, things would get more trippy.
Oh yeah.
More complex.
Well, I think it was like more niche. Nowadays it's all like everyone watches anime, so it's like mass appeal stuff.
Yeah, but I was also thinking that back then maybe they just thought that people couldn't handle like stuff that's as mind-blowing or disturbing. Because I thought, as someone who's seen Transformers, seen Gundam, seen Code Geass, I thought Neon Genesis
Code Geass
was going to be like more standard mechy. It's like it's not even about the mechs.
Yeah.
It's like it's not like a mech anime. It's like this
weird
isn't? Neon Genesis Evangelion.
No. Not like Gundam was.
That's what I mean. It's like it turns into this spiritual, super surreal, unexplainable thing.
Well, a great example of that too is Berserk.
I've heard great things about Berserk.
I'm shocked you haven't seen Berserk.
Yeah, it's so weird. I feel like I've Maybe I'm wrong. I would say I thought that I had seen more cumulative anime than you,
Maybe.
but it sounds like we're probably pretty close.
Well, the tough thing is I haven't watched as many long series. I've watched a lot of OVAs.
That's the thing, yeah.
And it was because I had a long list of anime I wanted to watch, and I
Yeah.
went through the OVAs first.
The long series kind of bogged me in the mud.
But I've done a few of those. I watched all of Naruto and Shippuden with all the filler.
Oh, goddamn. I had no idea you did that.
Every episode.
Wow.
Except for, like, the, like, stupid ones where it's, like, it's not even an episode.
Yeah,
you know?
the easily skippable ones.
Yes, the ones that are, like, a compilation of previous shit that happened or something.
Yeah.
I skipped some of those. I also watched all of Hunter x Hunter.
Which I also haven't seen.
Incredible.
It's another one that everyone's like, you gotta see that one.
And I've watched a handful of other long ones. Like, I've watched all of Attack on Titan, all of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Right, those aren't super long, but
No.
they are longer.
Longer.
I've seen Yu Yu Hakusho, which was the first anime made by the guy that did Hunter x Hunter.
Wow, I never got around to that.
Yeah, that's another legendary one, but most people who've seen both say that Hunter x Hunter's better.
Yeah.
Anyways, was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah, I feel
None
like
in particular.
we ended on we put a nice bow tie on the armchair physics bro science.
Yeah, I think the title of this being Call Me Black will not really hold up with the rest of the conversation.
No. We might want to change it from Call Us Blacks to, theorizing about the beginnings of consciousness or something like that.
Was God black?
Yeah. Did Rastafarians accurately predict the future?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Listen to Tenor Saw. Ring the alarm for a better idea.
With that, my friends, Ethiopia, Mount Zion,
Hey,
peace the hell out.
scissor me with your Spock.
Dude, stop being... Alright, fine.